Okay, let's be real. Boruto's been fighting an uphill battle since day one. Not because it's a sequel, but because it's a sequel to one of the most beloved series of all time that had been running for 15 years. Naruto wasn't just a show, it was my childhood. It was a cultural phenomenon. And for a lot of us, it was the first story that made us cry over fictional ninjas. So when Boruto was first announced, a lot of us were skeptical. I mean, I even remember hearing the name, Boruto? Am I gonna be bored? And shout out to all of you who remember when his name was first called Bolt, or we thought his name was gonna be Bolt. Yeah, that was weird. But expectations were sky high right out of the gate. Everyone thought this should be a return to form to Naruto Part 1, where we see more ninja battles and more grounded focus in the ninja world. And while I actually agree with that, there was no way Boruto was gonna meet up to expectations even if it did follow that road. And then the anime actually dropped. And we got filler hell. Yeah, we got way too many weird slice of life filler arcs and way too many episodes of Chocho. Yeah, basically the series gave off a totally different tone from what we just had in Naruto, which came off the war arc. And actually, I mean, there were actually a good amount of episodes that were after the war arc, if you remember, but still, the tone was completely different. And because of that, a ton of people bounced. People did not like Boruto, and I think that impression, that nasty taste in their mouth, still lingers to this day. And I get it. Why is this kid complaining? His dad literally saved the world, became Hokage, lives in a nice house now. He's got everything going for him. But that's what we're gonna get into today, about how Boruto is actually very different than Naruto, and this kind of story it tells is definitely worth getting into. But if you stopped watching the anime early on, keep watching this video, because I'm going to 100% convince you to start reading Boruto. You see, that version of Boruto you saw in the anime, it really is not the right representation of the Boruto character. It's definitely not the same story that the manga is trying to tell. The anime made a major mistake of trying to stretch things out, add filler characters, and try to pace out the schedule so they can put out as many episodes as possible. And we all know what happened when they tried to do that to Naruto Part 1, Naruto Shippuden, and honestly, a ton of other anime. What most people don't realize is that the Boruto manga is vastly, vastly better and different than the anime. It's lean, it's sharp, and it doesn't waste your time. It skips all the fluff. Every character drives the plot forward, and it's not trying to be Naruto 2.0. If anything, you kind of need to look at the transition between Naruto and Boruto like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
Excuse me for dropping in. I'm trying to find a man named Kakarot. I thought you were him.
When you look at Dragon Ball, it's actually a very grounded show. You're following Goku as he gathers the 7 Dragon Balls, meets new friends, fights in the martial arts tournaments, and gets stronger. But in Dragon Ball Z, things take a completely different turn. Goku is now a full-fledged adult with a kid, and his brother is a space alien. Yeah, none of these things were hinted in Dragon Ball, guys. This was a completely left turn in the Dragon Ball franchise, and I would love to time travel to just see, like, what did people think back then of that? Because it really is interesting. Boruto is building something new while honoring everything that came before it, and it's only gotten better with time. So before we go any further, let's just all agree on this. The hate that the Boruto anime got is well-deserved. Maybe minus a few, like a handful of episodes. Yeah, the whole Boruto anime is garbage. Now, let's talk about sequels for a second. Most of them fail because they either cling too tightly to the original, or they try so hard to be different that they forget what made people fall in love with it in the first place. A great sequel walks a tight rope. It has to honor the foundation that came before while also taking bold steps into new territory. It can't just be a remix, and it can't just be a reboot. It has to be a continuation. One that deepens the emotional core, expands the world, and dares to grow alongside its audience. Now think about the pressure that Boruto was under. It didn't just have to be a good story. It had to follow Naruto, a series that evolved from a goofy ninja adventure into a global phenomenon full of war, pain, sacrifice, and redemption. Naruto and Sasuke weren't just characters, they were icons. What Boruto does so well is accept that it's living in the shadow of something legendary, and it uses that to fuel the story. This isn't a clean slate. The past is everywhere. The peace Naruto fought for, it's fragile. The villains he defeated, their legacy lingers on. Boruto doesn't pretend the past didn't happen. It just asks what happens next. What happens when the next generation doesn't understand the cost of the world they've inherited? Even the main characters reflect this tension. Boruto isn't like his dad. He doesn't dream of becoming Hokage. He resents that burden because he knows what it's like. He's cocky, smart, and way more privileged than Naruto ever was. But he's also deeply aware of how messed up the ninja world can be. Kawaki, on the other hand, is the spiritual successor to Naruto's pain. A kid who was broken, abused, and desperate for connection. These are deliberate contrasts that force the audience to think beyond just nostalgia. So if you're wondering what makes Boruto a great sequel, it's this. It builds on the original themes, but with new stakes, new questions, and new emotional scars. It doesn't just ask, what would Naruto do? It asks, what would the next generation do if they had to clean up the mess their heroes left behind? And that is exactly the kind of storytelling a worthy sequel should strive for. What makes Boruto so compelling and what I personally love so much about it is that it doesn't throw away what Naruto built. It builds right on top of that. The story acknowledges that Naruto's dream came true. He became the Hokage. He brought peace. He raised a family. This story is not about him anymore. But instead of ending the story there with a happily ever after, Boruto asks the harder question. What happens after the dream is achieved? And what new dangers start to grow in the shadows of old victories? And that's where we start to see how Boruto lives and breathes within the foundation Naruto created. The world we see in Boruto is way more technologically advanced, but it's also way more complacent and way more vulnerable in new ways. Kinda like nowadays. Ninja are no longer the front line in war. They're more like peacekeepers, just relics of a more violent age. The shinobi way is being challenged by science, ideology, and alien level threats. And that tension between old and new is baked into every chapter. I love the way that they depict Naruto's dream coming true here. Like I said, yes, Naruto becomes a Hokage, but that's not the end. Naruto's a father, a leader.
I'm a dad, I'm a husband. You're not getting it, it's not clocking to you.
And a symbol of everything the village and kind of the world believes in. But because of this, he's stretched thin, emotionally distant, and completely unsure of how to handle being a parent and a peacekeeper at the same time. And going on a side tangent here, that's what made the anime kind of flop so hard, is they did a very, very poor job of explaining that that's the Boruto that we get in the beginning of the anime. You see, Boruto didn't hate his father just in the beginning of the anime. He didn't hate his dad for the first 12 years of his life. You see, Naruto wasn't Hokage for all 12 years of Boruto's life. It's actually stated and implied that he was present for all of Boruto's life up until he became Hokage, and then he became absent for quite a period of time. And that's what made Boruto resent him so much, is that he had his dad for a while and then lost his dad to this duty, to the village, to all these things that Boruto doesn't quite understand. And when you look at it that way, it makes so much more sense as to why Boruto acted the way he did in the beginning of the series. But going back to what I was talking about, Sasuke, on the other hand, is now a rogue Avenger. He's a shadow operative protecting the village from cosmic level threats. Literally. It's pretty dope. These characters didn't reset. They evolve. Their struggles are more grounded, relatable, but they still carry emotional weight because we know where they all started. Boruto and Kawaki's stories are tied directly to Naruto's legacy, but they're also reactions to it. Boruto resents the image of his father not because he hates him, but because Naruto's greatness casts a massive shadow over his life. He's constantly trying to prove himself on his own terms. Kawaki, on the other hand, finds peace because of Naruto. For him, Naruto represents the only father figure he's ever known, and he's willing to do anything to protect that bond, even if it means going down a darker path. You see, Boruto and Kawaki are not just mirror images of Naruto and Sasuke. They have very different motives for what they're doing. Like I said, Kawaki isn't evil, he just has a very clear motive. Actually, I actually agree with a lot of what Kawaki wants to do. It's very clear cut. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of a Trunks from Dragon Ball situation. He just wants to take out the androids. It doesn't really matter who, whatever they look like, just get them out of here because they did a lot of damage. And you can't blame him for that. Whereas Sasuke's whole arc related to his clan, his brother, all that stuff. All of this shows that Boruto isn't just a story set in the Naruto world, it's an actual continuation of everything Naruto fought for. And if you like the Naruto series, Boruto is fighting to hold the peace that Naruto fought for so hard in all those volumes. The victories, the sacrifices, the bonds, they all still matter here, but they're being tested in new ways. The foundation is still there and you feel it in every scene. Beyond all that, guys, every single time a new chapter comes out, Boruto rises to the very top, the #1 spot for the most popular manga currently at the time. Every single chapter that comes out pushes the plot forward, has some sort of big reveal, has some sort of reason to read that chapter. And for that alone, you know that Boruto is going to be worth reading because every single time you jump back into it monthly, some big fucking thing's going to happen. And not to mention, Boruto's art is incredible. Some of the manga panels lately have been popping off like crazy. And yeah, overall, the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I noticed that a lot of people actually kind of follow Boruto just through watching YouTube videos. And I know this because I was doing it myself for a while. But if you actually sit down and you read the whole Boruto manga, it's actually genuinely incredible. And I think more people should take the time to do so. Instead of just writing it off or just popping in here and there to see what's going on, I think you guys should really genuinely give it a shot if you haven't. Anyways, guys, I hope I convinced you to read Boruto. You should go out there and do it right now because it's awesome. and I'll see you guys in the next video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and check out the other videos on my channel. I'll see you later. Peace.